Hello. Forgot and left an elk hide on the table here. Not words you hear very often. Elk. Great stuff. Really tough and yet very soft. I'm going to talk about a lot of important points on the what's going on videos. And I'd been hearing now for the past week and a half on a lot of military maneuvers, and a lot of people, and I know that's not the case, I've seen it actually here in Kentucky, but it's happening in a lot of different places. I've been getting a lot of pictures and videos from different people. There's also an enormous amount of stuff on Twitter. People are saying, well, this is just normal military drills for this time of the year, like ROTCs and reserve units. They're saying, yeah, it's just National Guard. This is typical summer training for National Guard. A lot of Marines, and actually an enormous amount of ex-military say this is not normal. Some of these and the videos that I've seen, I know are not normal for a few different reasons. Let's go over a few of these. Sending choppers and tank convoys doing non-normal maneuvers, videos of tons of tanks in Idaho Falls streets. This is not normal because those tank treads actually wreck the pavement. A long line of them. I saw at least 20 vehicles. A B-2 bomber flying at extremely low altitude in South Florida. There's plenty of video on that. You could find it on Twitter and Telegram and other places. Long lines of tanks and military vehicles rolling through downtown Philly. Osprey, which hybrid type of chopper, is, they say, well, this is typical because the president is making a visit to California. That may or may not be the case, but you can see them landing in a park in a actual neighborhood in California. The military people, other than the hybrid, other than the Ospreys landing in the neighborhood in California there, they state declaratively that this is not normal. And this is true, that there are normal military drills, National Guard, ROTC and whatnot this time of year, but what's actually been seen is extraordinary, and it is not normal military drills. Many military and ex-military make declarative statements about this, that this is absolutely not normal. I'll let you take your pick on this. I'm only interested in presenting the evidence and making logical, informed decisions and conclusions based upon a lot of stuff that's actually seen. A lot of people actually take a lot of anomalous things and try to tie them together and, embroil people in some sort of irrational fear-mongering. I am certainly never interested in doing that. I can tell you what thousands, literally thousands of you are reporting to me that I also, too, experienced yesterday, and I've done polls on a lot of people, including live stream. I got 3 bags of absolutely nothing, 2 packages of eggs, 2 little hunks of turkey, 2 packages of cheap English muffins, 2 packages of cheese, a little bit of coffee. That was $75. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you're fat, you need to cut back on what you eat anyway. I know someone's going to stick that joke in there, that's perfectly fine. Countless thousands of you over the year and a half plus that I've been talking to you, and grocery prices continue to go up, are reporting to me that you've told me this. Thousands of you, no exaggeration, literally. And I'm always doing this poll and live stream and whatnot, that you're hovering right on the edge. People are living on their credit cards. And that has to end at some point. You're making minimum payments. You keep pushing your credit card limit up and up and up. Thankfully, credit cards are unsecured debt. If you don't know what unsecured debt is, you should look that up. But that's still, I mean, that's right at the breaking point. I can tell you with literal, and I don't mean this figuratively, with 100% certainty, that I can sense the zeitgeist and the stress around me. People are, it's not PTSD, it is, they're living in fear, of course, and people are afraid. They get angry, and they lash out like an animal. I see this and worse around me. everything really kind of is on the brink. I'm 100% certain it's going to break over. It's going to go, the wheels on the bus are going to fall off, and things are, you can either say, jump the shark and go off the cliff. You could say it's going to be a rough ride down the side of the cliff. Make whatever analogies you will, but I have 100% certainty that this is going on. Countless people in Europe, I hear from Ireland and France and Deutschland, Hungary, Romania, Italy, England, Ireland, Scotland. I hear from a lot of Scots, a lot of Irish, a lot of Brits. This is going on. It's going to break. It's going to break. And this, of course, is their plan. By their plan, I kind of humorously, even though it's not funny, refer to them as Hydra. This is WEF, several different entities that you can collectively call Hydra. I know everybody wants to talk about the failed coup in Russia and Prigozhin. People say, well, it's probably paid for by the CIA or NSA. I can't speculate as to that. It possibly could have been, but it seems more like a red flag effort concocted by Putin and Prigozhin, that this is a false flag that Prigozhin ran. He's supposedly been extradited as, shipped off to Belarusia, which basically is Russia for all that matter. There are many valid points that that this false flag involves a double-sided or two-pronged attack on Ukraine from the north, from Belarusia, and from the south, which is where Prigozhin's, and there were a lot of ex-convicts, and they're the roughest, toughest bunch, and they are mercenaries of Wagner. That'll be a two-sided attack on Ukraine sometime in the near future. Now, Prigozhin is a 20-plus, they're both from St. Petersburg. Formerly, when they grew up, it was Leningrad. Yeah? I lived in Leningrad, too. Very beautiful city. Prigozhin and Lenin are both from Leningrad. Prigozhin and Putin are kind of like identical twins, even though they're not twins at all. I mean, these guys, had a bromance going on for over 20 years. The idea that, and of course, Putin came out. I watched the speech literally 3 times from Putin that that Putin is in some way hostile or now an enemy with Prigozhin. This feigns credulity. I just find it completely implausible, completely impossible. It has been stated that the U.S. military intel knew that this would happen, probably from intel interception, as early as the earliest part of this month in June. So apparently the U.S. military knew that this false coup would happen. All of this, I'm about 100% certain, is a red flag concocted by Putin and his best bro, Prigozhin, and there's going to be a two-pronged attack. I've told you a million times that Putin does not have a reverse gear. I mean, he does not have a reverse gear. All the talk about, us winning, and the Russians losing in the conflict. I kind of hesitant to say because the algorithms are always listening into Ukraine. This just is total lies. The people that actually do know, with feet on the ground and high levels of intel access, say that that Russia is losing is absolute hardcore bunk. I've told you many times that Russia is a huge gas station and military weapons depot, and it absolutely is. A lot of the people in France, and this has literally been hidden in every aspect of U.S. media, that the fires and the protests in France have been completely suppressed. The last big one that I know of, and there's probably more big ones, they're just not finding out about them, is a town hall was set fire in Bordeaux. So the French are upset at the tyranny from Macron, and they're upset at the WEF agenda that's raging on hardcore in France. I've heard from a lot of French. They told me that it was the last straw that broke the camel's back, and they actually weren't upset over some nuances about raising the retirement age. A lot of French told me that, that it was the raising, that it was just the last straw that broke the camel's back. The stuff out of, where all the farmers have protested in the Netherlands about where you can't actually build another home, and if you have too many rooms, I forget the exact details, you have too many rooms, you have to have other people live with you. What if you were two people living in a house that was 4-bedroom, and then the government said that you had to invite other people to live in because you had all this extra space that was being unused and you weren't being friendly to the environment? I mean, this is just like some radical insanity. My buddy in Australia sends me links every day, several times a day, actually. It turns out that 2/3 of Aussies now absolutely cannot pay bills on time anymore. The same thing happening in Australia is happening here, except it's happening worse and faster in Australia. Australia's had absolutely really, really nasty tyranny these past few years of the great evil from Hydra, as I'll call it, that's been going on. Rent crisis in Australia, where I've seen the video. My buddy sent it to me in Australia. Hundreds of people are fighting over one tiny, dumpy apartment. Hundreds of people. Nobody, the same as here in the United States, can't afford a home anymore. And how do you rent? I guess people are going to have to be like a college. A house now is going to be like a college dorm or a flop house. Like, there'd be 3 families or 4 or 5 different individuals in a small home, and you're just, you're collectively, you barely have enough money to pay the rent. Apparently this is going on in Australia. It's going on here as well. The idea of home ownership, the great American dream, is completely dead. If, as Hydra wants, X number of billions of people croak like a frog in the very near future, which they have admitted, including the zit-face guy that runs the software company that I can't stand. He's stated we need a few billion less people in the world. It's not my opinion, it's not a conspiracy, it's a fact, he said it. If that happens, then, I guess houses will be cheap at that point in time. So, hundreds of people lined up to fight over one dumpy apartment in Australia. Once again, I tell you this with 100% certainty, and I almost never make declarative statements like that, unless I'm totally positive. The only way out for the United States, where all these countries are lining up against the US dollar, BRICS, and by the way, every expert agrees that things can turn on a dime within 72 hours. The banks close, civilization is the thinnest crust over the largest volcano imaginable. I've said that many times. That the only way out, and there's only 2 ways out, it could be one or the other, it could be both, for the United States and this debt crisis is central bank digital currency and or war. There's only those 2 ways out. The Fed can only print so much paper, push so much paper. There's only those 2 ways out, and both of them are serious, serious evil. I'm not trying to fearmonger, I'm being rational here. Those are the only 2 ways out. War and CBDC, Fed Now coin, which kicks off, by the way. July is only like 4 days away. It kicks off in July. I don't know if you know that. Go look up Fed Now coin. A lot of information being fed to me about people's farms being poisoned. I've heard a lot of beekeepers or bees are killed in Tasmania. Denmark, of course, killing off the farms. Ireland, where they're spreading the green agenda, and the cows have remained the same as far as people farming cows, but they want to kill off 200,000 plus cows. The guy's called Rizuki Farms. Rizuki, yeah. Everything in his farms were sprayed overnight with some unknown chemical. Everything was just slaughtered. That was his income. I've heard many, many reports of this. The one that I mentioned, Rizuki Farms, there's palpable video and evidence. This guy didn't do it himself. That's his own source of income. He also eats off of that and he sells it. Now it's all absolute garbage. Everything, every crop, tomatoes, everything Every damn thing was destroyed. Somebody sprayed it overnight. Yeah, but these military drills are not normal. The U.S., I don't know if you know this or not, has slipped from 4. It used to be number 4 on a freedom index of economic freedom. There's personal freedom indexes, and economic freedom indexes. So this is about economic freedom indexes. U.S. has slipped from slot number 4 to number 25. That just came out. That is from Heritage Foundation. And also to the HFI, the Human Freedom Index. So slipped from 4 to slot number 25. It's true that you, me, and the rest of us are basically trapped in a sort of way. It's all about escaping the system. It really is. That, we feel like we can't escape because our properties are taxed, our income is taxed, what you buy is taxed, even though you've already paid taxes on that earned income. And when you go to sell it, you get desperate for money, you get taxed on that. People are getting torn down, but they're also, too, letting themselves get torn down because they just don't know a way out. There's a meme that actually keeps passing around the world recently, and it says the biggest scam on earth is a job, a job, and it really is true. Even if I end up homeless and I'm like growing my own fruits and veggies on the farm, I don't care. I can scrape enough. Thankfully, property taxes in Kentucky are very cheap. I can scrape up enough money to pay property tax. If that happens, fine. I can get out of the system. But people are getting torn down. They're working for. This is the reason why customer service has gotten so demonically horrible. And it absolutely has. We're working for a paycheck that doesn't even pay the bills. There's an income calculator from the year of the Great Depression. And if we adjust for inflation, the average person back then was making $88,000 a year. And they didn't have anywhere near as many taxes, by the way. But adjusted for inflation, imprinted back on the Great Collapse, was it 1922, right? I probably have the year wrong. I was thinking it was 1922. Anyway, when it was done, adjusted for inflation, reversely so, $88,000 a year. Now the average income in the United States is, we don't have to adjust for income today, was $36,000 a year, I believe. So the person in the year of the Great Depression, the average income adjusted was $88,000. But today it is like $36,000. That tells you kind of everything you need to know. We are actually working more. People used to talk about labor laws and whatnot, back when we had kids making shoes at the age of 6 in the Victorian era in England. Had the kids just like working in a sweatshop basically. We're working more now, the average worker is in the United States, than they were working, not the kids, which of course child labor is horrible. Talk about your average daily worker. We're working way more now than they were back then in these horrible Victorian eras. Did they live cheap and poor? Yeah, they did, but they had more free time and they had a lot more freedoms than we have. I can certainly attest to that. I work 7 days a week. I pine for a day off. My donations are down 95%. I'm perpetually doing leather work. I thought I was going to die early this week because I was just so worn out. I basically didn't sleep for 3 days. I kind of collapsed at like 8 a.m. on Monday. And I was like, man, if I don't get some sleep, I'm just going to croak here. Obviously I have a roof over my head and I'm fat. I'm not starving to death. I'm not complaining. I'm righteously well aware and I'm very appreciative of whatever little that I have. I have wisdom, and that's the only thing I truly cherish. But I see people so torn down. They're so angry because they're scared and they're upset, and they're like me in whatever fashion. And you as well, where you're working twice as hard to make half as much. Let's just be brutally honest here. You and I've been making these plans for years, have always been, the word prepper, I can't stand prepper. When they show these prepper shows, they show some of the least intelligent people imaginable with like fantastical, crazy notions. It's just kind of a lot of cray-cray. Yeah, I'm rational. We need to have systems in place where we can actually adjust ourselves slowly, like getting out of the system, because this system is a freaking trap. Never hesitate to diversify your assets. Asset diversification is incredibly important. Don't trust your bank. I've seen so much stuff over the years. I would never, ever trust a bank. I only keep enough, not that I have any friggin' money anyway. Don't trust the bank at all. I keep enough in there to pay bills and like go get groceries and whatnot, but I don't. The money is in the bank. It is not your money. It is the bank's money. People say, well, it's FDIC insured. That is true, but it's also, too, a huge lie, because the fine print on FDIC insurance means that they can pay it back in dribs and drabs over a long period of time, where they'll still be paying it like long after you die of old age. You can go look that up, too, by the way. Also, too, I grew up, and you probably grew up, you know, like, oh, I made $30, and there's this awesome thing that's $30. I really want it, but you don't need it. You and and I've adjusted my life, you know, I don't know, a decade, 2 decades ago, to look at it accurately, that you have to look at every dollar made and think of it, how can you and I put it to work for us, to make passive income. We need to look at money, you know, like little, you know, peasants, like children. Not that I have children, but, you know, little Johnny takes out the garbage, little Sally does the laundry, little Stevie vacuums the living room. We need to look at our money kind of like children in that sense. You know, because they have to pitch in, you know, because mom and dad pay the bills, and at least little Johnny could do is take out the garbage, at least little Stevie can do is vacuum the house and, you know, whatever, mow the yard. We have to look at our money that way, and basically nobody does. Like, we see something fascinating, oh, I really want this garbage, and it's never going to give you a return in your money. I mean, some few things do, but most, of course, don't. We have to look at it like that. You know, like my sewing machines are like that. I mean, these are really, really expensive, but they have paid for themselves many, 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 many times over. I have 4 of them here. You can't see, you see one here. There's another one here, another one over here, another one over there. there's many, many, many hundreds of pounds of super heavy industrial sewing machines in this frigging room. And we have to have skills. Filling our heads full of useful facts, useless facts in most cases. Who gives a damn? Having the skills to build things and fix things is invaluable. It is like a bank inside of your own mind, which is a mental toolbox. I know how to fix stuff. I know how to build stuff. I know how to make stuff. Way, way better than anything you got educated on in public school. I know for a fact, and you know this is undeniable, that people are not living anymore. They're just surviving. A motto that I've lived with most of my life is get it while you could get it. In other words, it's important for survival to keep you alive. Start hoarding things that are important to keep you alive. Survival things, food stuff, first aid kits, land if possible, sprouting seeds, planting seeds. They're both seeds, but one's for planting and growing and cultivating, and the other ones are for sprouts, like alfalfa sprouts, mung bean, on and on and on. Land is really, really important. If you're in the United States, my top 2 would be land and lead. I'll let you figure out what the lead is in reference to. Land and lead. Number 3 would be learning. If at all possible, invest in platinum. Right now, platinum is $920 an ounce. Typical premium on platinum, depending on what it is, Zaru, a maple leaf. Don't buy American Eagles, the premium's too high. It's basically $120 per ounce over spot price. So if you want something small and portable, don't buy gold. Its true value is between $800 to $1,200. Platinum right now is super cheap. I don't give investment advice, but I'm telling you flat out, if you want something valuable and portable, the answer is platinum. Silver is great. But $30,000 worth of silver is a huge honking amount. Basically, that's like 75 pounds. $30,000 of platinum, which would be basically 30 ounces. I mean, you could fit that in your friggin' pocket. I hope you liked this video. Please comment below on anything that you've noticed. I read every comment, and other people read your comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you ever like these videos, not just this video, but any donation is very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much. I hope you have a lovely week, and thank you for watching.